I think this is super timely. We're wrapping up the year. We've got a couple of months to go. This is typically around the time where business is starting to kind of slow down a little bit. And you've been through an entire summer season where you've been balls to the wall, just busy as you can be. And this was somebody in the Patreon group just posed the question in our health category on the Slack. We guys, we talk about all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
It's not just gear stuff, but it mostly is gear stuff. Let's not kid ourselves. But this person, I'm not going to name them because I don't know who listens to whatever, but I don't want their bandmates like jumping down their throats, whatever. But the main topic is burnout. And the question goes a little something like, do you ever get burned out on being a band leader? Ever think about walking away, joining someone else's band, just having a show up and play role? That's the kind of headspace I'm in, and I'm trying to figure out if it's really what I want to do or just a passing phase. And when I tell you, the response was immediate and unanimous. I think I was the first person to respond, and by the time I finished typing, there were at least 5 more underneath it.
Yep, including a bunch of people who, are big inspirations for me inside that group of what it is to be a band leader, who were like, yep, constantly.
So the answer is yes.
Yes,
we all feel burned out doing this. It can be a thankless job. It can involve a lot of bull crap. It can involve, for most of us, I didn't start playing guitar to answer emails about power requirements.
Yeah, I do enough like figuring out how to quote stuff in my day gig. Like
and then we do it in our free time.
Yeah, hopefully those, the skills I've honed there are of some value in this hobby thing of mine. I've said to people, like, I'd call it a side hustle if I ever made money at it. As it is right now, it's just a self-funding hobby. Yeah, is it worth it? I don't know. And I've said, and I'm quoting Dave Hamilton from Gig Gab saying this, that most gig days, if you called me at like 1:30 in the afternoon and said, hey, we're canceled, you'd be my favorite person on the planet. That'd be the best thing.
Absolutely.
Oh my God. The weather's coming in and I'm like, baby, please. But then of course, downbeat changes everything. That experience of actually being there, playing it, doing the music with the people you love in front of people that are responding, like that is so juicy and so fulfilling and so much an expression of who I am. Like I wouldn't pass it up, to begin with. And then the question is, would I give up being a band leader? Would I be somebody who just shows up and plays? Yeah, I've done that. And it's fine. But the problem then is when the band leader's doing things that aren't optimal, and you kind of have to sit on your hands about that. You kind of have to, you can give input or whatever, but it's not your call. I've been in the place where I've watched a band leader burn down goodwill with a venue. I've watched a band leader throw away marketing opportunities or collaboration opportunities that would have been really beneficial, that I would have been all over if I'd been that band leader. But hey, it's not my gig, right? So I'll just be over here with my guitar. That hurts me in my heart, like in my soul, to watch that happen. And so that's why I said, when I set up this project for the first time, really, that I'm going to be the band leader. I'm going to be I've said benevolent dictator, but since it seems to often fall to me to make the right call anyway, whether that's official or not, I'm just going to have it be official this time. And that's going well. I think that's going really well. The band is coalescing well around the concept. I think they feel really free to speak to me about their ideas and their input and how to do things. We've doubled up on weekly rehearsals at my bassist's suggestion. He was concerned about getting to stage November 2nd with how the trajectory of learning was going. And he was right. We needed to double up. And so we did. That kind of thing, right? But for me, the pain of sitting back and watching it done some other guy's way is bigger than the pain of doing it myself. And so I always just sort of end up taking it's my whole life I've been like the guy who walked in front. I don't know why that is. Somehow that's just natural to me. And it's not to everybody. Some people have to get up to that, right? But yes, for every time I felt burnt out, I've looked at the alternative and been like, yeah, probably better off just stepping up.
Yeah. In my situation, it's kind of like the running joke, and everybody who's in the Patreon community knows it at this point, is that it's the time of year when Adam starts considering selling the rig and handing it to somebody else.
Just hanging it up.
I think having the the perspective of time does help,
Mm.
because you do understand that it is kind of cyclical, and you do go through these periods where you're just like, this is just not, this is not feeding me in the way that I wanted it to. And I got into this scenario because in my original group, I was not a shot caller and saw things, like you were saying, things run the way I didn't think they should be. And then when it all went, south, being told in very blunt terms that you have no ownership of this. You contributed nothing. You were just a person. And spending 8 years of your life committed to something, missing family events and spending time with your wife and kids just
Mm.
was just, yeah. So I was like, I don't ever want to be in that situation ever again.
Yeah.
So, you have to be willing to step up and do that. And that was my response is, do you feel this way? Yes. But the alternative is you reconciling with, do you think that you would be happy or you would feel fulfilled if you weren't the person in charge? And that's really where the rubber meets the road. Because if you having a say is the thing that like you appreciate, then there's your answer.
Yeah, or if there's an artistic expression that's part of it for you, nobody else had this idea to do an 80s version of my band, and my guys wouldn't have chosen that left to their devices. And I offered it to them and they were in, and there's hardly a bigger 80s kid than me, frankly, in the world. So,
Easy.
piece of cake to do that, sort of. But if somebody came to me and said, "Hey, 90s pop punk," I'd have been like, that's not I don't really know it. I was down a classic rock rabbit hole in the 90s. I can play every note of Pink Floyd, but I kind of missed Nirvana.
Yeah.
So if there's an expression of music that you love, that you are the champion for in your group, that without you championing it, it wouldn't be happening. That's another aspect of it, that your own personal expression is your own, and as a band leader, you get to marshal your forces and get the band in line for that, and find the people who are going to be, or be the voice for it that people can coalesce around. And that's the other part of it. It's not just the work and the tactical sort of how to market, how to communicate, how to have relationships, but also the artistic vision that often comes directly from the band leader. That's part of what I'm enjoying about this change. Even before focusing on 80s for this thing, my vibe has always been really eclectic. Like I'll throw
Mhm.
a early 60s tune next to something on the radio now and really just blow people's mind with the juxtaposition. I've done that acoustic and in every band I've been in. And that's an expression that I wouldn't get to have if I was the guitar player in somebody else's band.
Or you could spend all of that energy trying to like talk people into it.
Well, and I've done that, and it wasn't appreciated, and it
Yeah.
caused nothing but friction,
Yeah, it's a real
and I
pain.
and I had to like apologize and back out, because this isn't my band. And for somebody who leadership is somehow sort of a natural expression for me, a side player in somebody else's band was really hard. Like I really had to suppress some things, and at some point that became intolerable. I just became unwilling to do it.
Well, and I think there's also a component of the grass is always greener
Sure,
in a different situation.
sure.
Because if you, yeah, on paper, if you were like, okay, you're going to get paid this much and all you got to do is show up and do the thing. Right now, in contrast to what I'm currently doing, sign me up.
Sounds great. Let's go.
Is there paperwork? What do I need to
Yeah,
do?
yeah. Whose hand do I shake? Let's do this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But on the flip side, I think that at some point that would get old, and there would be, like you said, something would come up and you would want to say something, you would want to do something, and it's not your place. And so you have to find a way to reconcile yeah, this is a lot more work, but I get to be the person that casts the vision for this project, and its success is testament to the hard work that I have done, as well as the contribution of the people on my team. And it it does challenge you. It challenges you to be a people leader, to be a business person, be a creative influence, to be a marketing, like there it challenges me in ways that nothing else has
Right.
and may never.
The one comparison that I think I can see is like a startup founder.
Yeah. Well,
Has
we are a small
Essentially, we
business.
are, right?
Yeah.
So, and you got to be everything. You got to be the marketing, you got to be the vision, you got to be the technical, you got to be the HR, you got to be everything. And I think it's worth saying, like, just because you and I are both, well, you've said sometimes,
Neurotic.
yeah, well, yeah, that you've said sometimes before, like, if you could be anything other than a musician, you should do that. Like, but if you can't, if that's the only thing you can imagine yourself being, then freaking go, right?
Yep.
It's kind of like that. Not everybody has to have this pull to be the one at the heart of it and making the decisions and driving it. But boy, if that's if that's you, then there's no denying that that's you.
Yeah.
You be true to that and don't pretend that it could be any other way. I've been in 3 bands now where I pretended it could be some other way for me, and on to a greater or lesser degree, it sucked. And I'm done pretending about that. I'm a
Hmm.
band leader, and I'm going to be. And if you're going to be in a project with me, I will listen to you, like I say, benevolent dictator, 100%. But when it comes down to who owns the PA, who's driving the sound, until I can find someone to delegate to that to, like who's primarily driving relationships with venues, it's going to be me. I totally want input from the band. I want their participation. If somebody wants to step up and be like, no, I'll be the booker. Cool,
Yeah.
go, right? God bless. But in the absence of that, count on me because I'm there. I will be that.
Yeah.
If you are capable of sitting back in a band and not doing that, I recommend it. Life will be easy for you. But if you're like Adam and me, where that's just not how we're built, you got to own it. You got to step into it. You got to acknowledge it, and you got to not pretend it's some other way for you.
And all right, let's do self-awareness session time
Mm,
here.
okay.
I am easily the most difficult person to deal with in my group. And so being the person in charge means that people just have to put up with you.
Well, yeah,
I mean, they don't have to, but if they want if they want to play the gig and get the check from doing this in this band, I am the person that they have to, tolerate the most, I suppose.
yeah,
Cuz yeah, I mean, when I get stressed, I'm not at my best, and the guys in my group see that more than I care to admit,
yeah.
but
Well, that's
it's
that's the thing. That's part of leadership too. Is you don't have to be, how do you say it? Like, you're still a human and you're still going through what you're going through, and you get to use that as part of what connects you with them. And so I don't know. I think if you asked your guys, they'd say, yeah, there are moments when Adam's clearly going through something, but that doesn't make it not worth being on his team. Or, I mean, you shared a couple of stories in our whole time together, like literally a couple, where your frustration with them came out in ways they saw.
yeah.
Like a couple out of all the years we've talked. And your tendency is to turn it on yourself, not on other people. You're going to be harder on yourself than them. And I think that's easier to be with than you think.
The thing for me is when I get flustered, I can't internalize that
Hmm.
because I feel like I'm at a level of anxiety just in general that when it just hits a certain tipping point, there's just I I have no poker face. I just can't. I can't fake it. I can't fake anything. It's really not great for me
Hmm.
or the people around me when things are not going well. But those moments are fleeting and you can usually recover as long as you don't do or say or think anything that, can't be taken back.
Yeah, and it's hard to even think of something that couldn't be taken. You can always. I just always sort of stand that you can always work anything out in
Yeah.
communication. It's not, very little is actually unforgivable.
So I think this is a really very specific question for a very specific group of people, but I think
Yeah,
it's important to talk about because playing music is hard. And
yeah,
even if you're just doing it as a hobby, even if you're not the person in charge, there are still situations that are stressful, and you can find yourself in a situation you're like, why am I doing, like, I don't have to do this.
yeah. I didn't sign on for
Why am I
this.
doing it?
Yeah, yeah.
But the answer typically is there's something in you that can only be expressed a certain way, and this is the way that works the best for us. And if you want to do it and you want to be successful at it, you're just going to have to understand that it's just not always going to be a walk in the park. And
Yeah.
here's the thing, we talk about is like, oh, we're struggling or we're not successful, da 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 da. All you have to do is read any musician book or movie. Like, they hate it. They hate
Yeah.
it
Yep.
so much. There's
Yep.
so much about stuff they don't enjoy. It's just like anything else. It's a job. And even if it's a fun job, a job's a job. And there's always going to be parts of a job that you just are not going to be into.
Yep.
Period. Doesn't matter what you do. I can't I can think of some things, but I'm not going to say I'm on this because I'm trying to, keep it clean for the ratings
Yeah.
purposes. But there's just going to be stuff that you're going to have to put up with, and there's no changing it. So if you can push through those times, it does go, it passes.
Yeah.
It is temporary. It is fleeting. Every time that I have thought about selling the gear, I have not sold the gear. I still have all the gear.
Yep.
I understand that at some point there will be a time where it's like, okay, it's time to hang it up. But right now, like, even when things are stressful, there are still moments where it's fun. Like at this gig yesterday, we had a really stressful setup and had some technical issues. And we're playing in a weird setup where people weren't paying attention. Amber and I just stood on stage and pointed at dogs. There was a dog walked by that was wearing boots, and we were like, look at that dog, he's wearing boots.
It's good.
It was still fun. And then we went out, we had dinner with the band and our boys, and it was a good hang. And everybody hugged when we left, and it was great.
Yeah.
You got to get through the crappy parts to get to the good parts.
Totally.
And you never get there if you don't stick it out.
There you go.
I think it's a good one to wrap it up on.
I think so too. Some of our episodes are really well plotted out and designed and it's structured well, and others, like, we go deep on stuff and we find things we didn't know were there. I like both kinds. I like both kinds.
This one was a little meandering, but we'll cut it all down. That's
well, no, but it was a deep conversation that we found some truth in, and I really, we couldn't have done that if it was too structured. So
yeah,
I'm happy about it.
I do want to thank our person who will remain unnamed for asking the question, because I think it probably took some guts to even just externalize that feeling. I know that I've definitely felt the pressure to not say it out loud, but the community aspect of this group makes it very safe to say those things and be just brutally honest about stuff when things aren't going the right way.
Yeah, and you're in a like, literally a dozen people jumped in like, yup. Like, totally validating that experience and not having
there was not one dissenting opinion.
Yeah, nobody was like, "Oh no, you can't think that. That's bad." Like, not a hint of that. So,
nope.
If you want to be in a community of people who have totally been where you are and empathize and can relate totally, man, $5 a month.
Yeah,
Oof, hard to beat.
Easy sell.